Time to begin. We've got a lot to cover today, so I want to jump straight into it. But first, let me just say thank you for joining us for our final ACT training webinar for the year. Typically, we would have done this one at the end of November, but we had the Thanksgiving holiday kind of push up right against it. So we delayed it for 1 week, as you know. And this will be the last one we do for this year. For those of you who are new to this series, we've got a Q&A panel that you can use to ask questions. Dan Horn will be on the line here from the UK. And some of you are not sure where to ask these questions. Go to your Q&A panel in Zoom. If you don't see it in your Zoom menu, there's a little more button there. And if you click that more button, you'll be able to see the Q&A button. So when you click that, it'll open up that question and answer section. So ask the questions there, and Dan and I will hopefully be able to answer those throughout the series today. And we'll hang on towards the end after the conclusion to just finish up on any unanswered questions at the end. This is being recorded. That's our most common question. Yes, we are recording this, and we are going to send this link to you at whatever email address that you used when you registered to attend live. But don't worry, we also will have it posted on our library, our webinar library page on act.com, where you can view this and all of the other sessions that we've done on demand. So I'll show you where that is towards the end. Also, speaking of the end of this, once this concludes, you may be shown a survey. What we'd like you to do, it doesn't take too long. Just give us a little feedback on what you liked, what you thought we could do better. And if you have any ideas on future webinars of things in ACT that you'd like to learn more about, certainly include that in the survey. We're always looking for great ideas for future sessions like this one. So the agenda today is we're going to go through lots of different areas to help you tailor ACT for your own needs. We're going to look at the access levels. We're going to look at a whole lot of different preferences in ACT, using security several different ways, and then also helping manage your data so that you're getting not only good data, but also that you're removing old data that you might not need to help you improve performance. A little bit about me. My name is Brent Milner. I've been part of ACT for 19 years now. I got to update that slide. I hit my 19th anniversary. My job here is to teach and train people like you who are using ACT every day. I also help train our new employees and partners. I create, seems like millions of videos, but it's not really that many. A whole lot of videos on the different features of ACT. Whenever new things come out, I have to jump on that and help train those things too. I live up in northern Arizona in the woods, and I have 3 dogs, and you may hear one of them during this session. I hope not, but let's cross our fingers for that. So let's jump straight in here, and let's begin by talking about how you can use the Teams feature in ACT to set up some access levels for records that you create. So the first thing I want to do is jump into my ACT account here. With Teams, what you can do is you can grant access to records to several users or members of a team at one time. And we'll look at in a little bit is that you can also set new records to be limited to those team members. So let me first just get into the actual area of creating teams. How do we create teams in ACT? This can be done by either admins or managers of those user roles. And the way to do that is to go into your tools menu, and you will see a manage teams option here. If it's grayed out for you, that means you're not a manager or an administrator. So you'll have to either ask for someone to change your user role or get somebody else at your company to perform this. So I'm going to click Manage Teams, and this will show me the current teams that I have in my ACT database. Now, you can create teams for any different number of reasons. I have some teams here that are region-based, so you can see I have USA Central, Northeast, Northwest, and so on. You can also have teams that are role-based at your company. I have a finance team and a marketing team and a couple of different examples of that. Let's create a new team. I'm going to create a new team, and I'm going to make it a regional team for my Canadian customers, for example. So I'm going to create team, and then I'm going to name this team. We'll just call it Canada. If we need to put a description in there, we can do that. But I think this is pretty self-explanatory. So I don't need to add a description. And then the only other thing I need to do is um, add my users to this team. So which of my users will be part of this Canada team? I'm going to include myself. And I could do this one at a time by clicking the user and then clicking the right arrow button to move them over. Or I could hold down the control button on my keyboard to select multiple people. And then I'll click the right arrow. So I've got 3 people on this Canadian team, myself and Fran and Ian. And now I'm going to click finish, and this team will be created in Act for me. It'll show up now, alphabetized, and I'll see my Canada team is right here. Now we're going to work with this a little bit more later on, but I wanted to show you, first of all, how to create the team before we start doing the things that are team related. Okay, next up, what we're going to do is jump into the preferences area in Act. Now, there are a lot of different preferences that you can choose in Act, and this is typically something I recommend that new customers do pretty early on, just so that you have all your preferences set before you start entering a lot of data, before you start using Act a lot and getting a lot of sort of that muscle memory within Act. But certainly, if you've never changed your preferences, you can go look at them now just to see maybe there's an easier way to do things, save some clicks, organize a little bit better, and that's what preferences will let you do. So I'm going to walk through a bunch of these different preferences with you. Let's start by changing how notes and history can be edited. So to access your preferences window, go to your tools menu, and then towards the bottom, you'll see this preferences section. So once again, tools menu, and then towards the bottom, choose preferences. This will open up your preferences window where you can see there are 8, I think, different preferences, maybe 9 if I can count, different preference areas that you can access. Now, some of these preferences are not available to all users. Some are available to managers and admins, and I'll hopefully be able to tell you which ones are which as we go. The first one we're going to talk about here is changing the way notes and history records can or can't be edited. Now, this is something that only managers and admins can change, but it's in the general area. So if I click general, there's a drop down, there's some checkboxes at the top which say allow history editing or allow notes editing. By default, they're checked, so anybody can edit history records and anybody can edit notes. You may decide, I don't want people editing history records or notes. Once a history record is created, leave it there forever. So what we'll do is we'll disable this. We'll change it so that you can no longer edit notes, right? I'm going to uncheck that, and I'll click the OK button. Now, I'm going to look up one of my contacts who has a note. His name is Ryan. I'll go to his detail view, and we'll see that if I go to the notes area here, I've got a few notes here. So here's one I want to try and edit. It's called This is a New Note. If I click the edit button, this will show me the details of the note. But now if I try to type anything or delete anything, I can no longer do that. It doesn't give me an error to say this is uneditable because I still want to be able to view the note, but I just can't make any changes to it. And so this is a setting that will be system-wide. This means all users will not be able to edit the note. So it's either on or off globally, depending on the setting that you make. So if I go back into my tools menu here, into the preferences area, under the general preferences, now if I enable it again to allow notes editing, I'll show you that now I should be able to edit this note that I have for Ryan. So now I'm going to change this to say this is an edited note, where I can now type in this box. And I'll click save, and it'll ask me, do I want to save it everywhere that it's associated with? And I'll say yes, because this note was also associated with the company record, not just the contact record. So I'll say okay. And now this note has been edited. So that's how you can quickly change a preference to edit notes and also history records. Next up, I want to show you some preferences that you can set for your calendar. But before I do that, let's go look at the calendar real quick to see what our current settings are. I'm going to go to my work week calendar, and we can see that my work week for this company, I have set it so that my work week is four days of 10 hours each. So it's a Tuesday through Friday work week. We start at 7 in the morning, and it's sort of displayed by everything outside the work uh, hours is grayed out. Now we can still create activities during these times, but this just helps you visually see what your work hours are for the work week. And if I scroll down, the end time is 6 o'clock. So we're working from 7 to 6, Tuesday through Friday. Now within each of these blocks, we can see that they are 15-minute increments. So this will show me um, 4 units per hour of items that I could schedule. And that's something we can change also. So let's go to the tools menu and choose preferences. And this time I'm going to select the calendar preferences. Now there's 3 sections in here, and we'll cover 2 of the 3 really. The first one lets me set my work week, work days. So currently you can see my first day of the work week is Tuesday, and I have 4 work days. I might want to change this to say Monday and set it to 5 days. What this will do is it'll give me a Monday through Friday work week. Now, currently, your work week days have to be consecutive. So you can't currently set it up to say, my work week is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Maybe if we get some requests for that, we could change this in the future to make these check boxes. But for now, it's going to be consecutive days in your work week. Now, my start time is 7 a.m., but I'm going to change it to say, let's go traditionally 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then down below that, I can see that my work week calendar is set to 15-minute increments. Let's change it to 30 just to show you what that looks like. And while we're here, let's change the daily calendar to 15. So let's swap them so that we get 15-minute increments on the daily and 30-minute increments on the work week. Now, beneath that, there are some additional settings that you can choose here. If you want your first day of the week to be something other than Sunday, you can select that here. And you can also change your annual calendar to be whatever your fiscal year might be. By default, it's set to January 1st. But I'm going to click OK and then close. And this will refresh my calendar view. So now my work week calendar has been adjusted to a Monday through Friday, 5-day work week. And the start time is at 8 a.m. and the end time is now at 5 p.m. Also, the increments have now been changed to 30-minute blocks instead of 15-minute blocks. If I switch to my daily calendar, we'll see that my increments here have been changed to 15-minute blocks as the preference that I selected. So next up, let's look at one of our preferences for setting the startup view. When you log into ACT every day, or whenever you log into ACT, by default, it's going to take you to the welcome screen. And that's useful because the welcome screen is there designed to help you kind of plan out your day and to call your attention to things that might need your attention first. But let's say that you don't want your welcome screen to be your default startup view. What you can do is on your preferences screen, go to the startup area, and you can change that. By default, it's going to say welcome screen, but I'm going to change mine to, let's do the contact list. Maybe I want to see my contact list first thing when I log in. And not only that, there's another selection here which says you can use preferences as your default lookup. So I'm going to change this and click that so that it doesn't show me just my entire contact list of, 500 contacts. Instead, it's going to just show me the ones I've marked as my favorites. So I will click OK for that and click close. And now the next time I log in, which I will hopefully be able to do here, I might need to unlock my database. I notice my database is locked. There we go. Let's unlock it. I don't want to get locked out. So now if I log off and I log back in again, what I should see happen is it will take me straight into my contact list, but not just my contact list, the favorites on my contact list. And those are shown by the blue stars here on the left. So that's how you can change your startup view when you log in each time. And again, this is a user by user preference. So even though I'm looking at my contact list, all the other users at my company will be able to choose what their startup window will be. Next up, I want to look at changing how records are created and the access levels that they're given. And this is why we created the teams ahead of time. What I can do is from the startup preferences area, this is the same place where we changed our startup view. I can now change it so that any new records I create, I can change the access level to those records as they're created. By default, any new contacts, companies, groups, and opportunities I create, they're set to public. What that means is any user at my company can view those records and edit those records. But let's say that I want to change this so that any new contacts I create are going to be only viewed and editable by my new Canada team. The way to do this is to change this drop down from public to limited. And then in the right drop down where it says select users and teams, I'm going to click that to expand it. And instead of using the users tab, I'm going to use the teams tab. And now I'm going to assign Canada as the team that should be able to view and edit that. Let's get rid of support. I'm going to leave admins there because I think admins should always see every record. And I'll click save. So now I've told Act that whenever I create new records from this moment on, assign those or limit the access to those records to only administrators and my Canadian team. All right, so I'm going to click OK and let's test this out. I will create a new contact. And let's name this person Bob McKenzie. And I'm going to put an email address in here too, just because I'm going to test something out in just a little bit. But let's put in his email address, bob@elsinorebrewery.email. And now I'm going to click save. Now, one thing that we can look at while I'm creating this record is I can jump over to this contact access tab and I can see that I am the record manager. It defaults to that because I'm the one who created the record. But now look at what happened in the access level. Instead of it being a public record, it's now got limited access. And if I click this select users and teams button, it'll show me when I click the teams tab that the selected teams who have access to this record are now administrators and my Canada team. So nobody else should be able to view this record. And I'll be able to show that when I log in as somebody else. So let's do that real quick. Let's log in as one of my other users. Let's just open an incognito window. And I'm going to log in as, let's see, I think Bugsy is one of my regular users. Yeah. This is Bugsy Malone, and he's not a member of the Canada team. So because of that, Bugsy should not be able to view my new record for Bob McKenzie. I'm going to do a quick search for Bob, and this will locate any contacts I have whose name is Bob. There's only 4. I don't see Bob McKenzie here, and that's good because, wait, no, here's Bob McKenzie, but it's spelled differently. Oops, I already did that name. But the one I just created, Bob McKenzie without the A, is not showing up here because Bugsy is not part of the Canada team. So that record, that Bob McKenzie record, won't show up in any searches, and it won't show up in any reports as well. And that record is pretty much hidden from anybody who's not a member of my Canada team. All right, next up, let's change the way history records are created. So when I create a history record, let's say a phone call record, by default, it's showing call received. Now, this is useful in that I might create a lot of history records. And usually you would create a history record if somebody calls you or if you just happen to bump into somebody and you don't have maybe an activity associated with that already. But you want to create a history record to just create some kind of interaction that you have, some kind of item that you've completed. You might just create history records to do that. What we're going to do here is we're going to change this default result for specific history types to just save you one click of choosing the correct result. The way to do this is to go into your tools menu and we're going to go to the preferences area And inside preferences, this is also, I believe, under the startup preferences area as well. And it's down at the bottom, history creation. So you can see for my call types, I have by default chosen call received. But let's say for whatever reason, I wanted to change that to call completed. I think this is probably the default for most people anyway. But I'm going to change that to say call completed, and I'll click OK, and we'll close this out. And now the next time I create a history record, it's going to change that default result to call completed for me. So one less thing that I have to change, one less click. And it doesn't seem like much, but if you're creating, 100, 200 history records in a week, this will save you a lot of time by not having to change that field. So that's one thing you can do to customize ACT just to make your life just a little bit easier. One other thing I want to show you in the preferences area is notifications. Now, this is something that admins can do. If you want to create a notification and send it out to everybody at your company. By default, I believe this is turned off. But what you can do is you can enable this and you can type in a little message and send it out to everybody at your company. What'll happen is there will be a little window that pops up in the lower right corner to display the message that you're sending out to everybody. And you can even add a link to it to click to somewhere that you want to get somebody's attention. So in this example, I just put a kind of a typical message. Don't forget the office is closed on Monday. Fill out your reports today. And then I might have a link to wherever the reports are that my employees have to fill out. Now, when I click OK, this is going to be sent into the queue to go out to all my users when they log into ACT. There is some kind of a delay on here. I think the default delay is 15 minutes. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that message will come out typically the next time everybody logs into ACT. And so that's a useful way that you can communicate to your employees if they're not in the office, if you're not all here at the same time. You can use the notifications area to get messages out to them so that when they log into ACT, they receive that message. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is apply some security to fields in ACT. Now, this is going to require me to have to lock my database. So we may come back to this. And the reason is when I lock my database in ACT Premium Cloud, it typically requires a 3-minute countdown before I can lock my database. And that just means it's giving everybody else at my company a chance to save their records and then log out gently before ACT just kind of boots them out after that 3-minute delay is expired. But we'll look at it and we'll see if that's the case. I did log in as Bugsy, so ACT thinks Bugsy's logged in, and I might have to have that 3-minute countdown. If that's the case, we'll skip to the next item and we'll come back to this. But let's just see what happens. Now, applying security to fields is great because you may want to have some fields available, but you may not want everybody to see those fields. I have a field here that I'm going to use as an example. I created a custom tab called Account Info. And on this tab, I have a field called Credit Limit. And this just lets me say, what is each contact's credit limit with my company. So Ryan's is currently set to 50,000. Maybe I want to increase it to 75, right? And then I can click save and it will work as intended. But maybe I don't want everybody to be able to edit this field. And maybe I don't want everybody to even see that field. Maybe there's some real sensitive data here that I want to hide from some users and make it just read only for other users. And that's where field level security comes into play. So let's secure this field. The way to do this is we're going to choose define fields. And yeah, we're getting that countdown. So in 3 minutes, we'll lock this database. You can see the little countdown in the lower right corner. Once this database is locked, we'll come back to this. And I'll show you how we can change the security for a single field. But I don't want you to have to sit here for 2 minutes and watch the countdown. That's not fun for anybody. And plus, we have a lot of other things to do. So we'll come back to this. The next thing I want to show you is using multi-factor authentication to, I'm going to skip this too because I'm going to be locking the database. And this demonstration will require me to have to log in as somebody else. So 2 things that we're going to skip, but I will come back to it, I promise. So let's go to security roles, setting up user roles for specific users, right? We have lots of different user roles, um, but you may not know how to change those roles. You may want to know, what do those roles even mean? What does it mean to be a manager type? What does it mean to be a standard user? Well, let's look at changing user roles first of all. I'm going to go to my tools menu, and this is something that admins only can do. Managers can't do this. I'm going to go to my manage users area, and I'm going to click additional settings. Now this will take me in, so open up a new tab. I need to make sure I choose the right database here. And once I have my right database, I'm going to click change user roles. Now this will show me everybody in my company, and then it'll show me the role that they currently have. To change it, it's simple. All you have to do is choose the user you want to change and select their new role. Now there are 6 different user roles here available. Typically on this list, we're going from the least amount of permissions to the most amount of permissions. So a browse user, for example, is somebody who can only read records. They can't make any changes. They can't really do anything. They can't schedule activities or edit or anything. And in fact, I don't believe even a browse user counts against your user license. They're just there to see and nothing else. And then as you go down, you're going to get more permissions added to each user role type. System manager is also a role that doesn't count against your user license. This is just somebody who's responsible for database maintenance. So they're not even going to be looking at any records or doing anything other than maintenance for the database. So I'm going to make Ian a manager, and then I'll click update roles, and that will update the user role for him. Now you may be asking, well, how do I know what each role can do? What are the permissions? And there's a quick way to find out. If you go to Act, in the upper right corner, there's a little question mark. If you click that, you can choose Help Topics. This will open a new tab in your browser, and it will take you kind of to an encyclopedia of Act knowledge. Down at the bottom, you can search for all different kinds of topics. I think what I usually search for here is data security. When you type in data security and click search, it'll give you every topic that's related to data security. So you might want to say, well, what is data security? And it'll take you to kind of like that article. Under user roles and permissions, you can choose what are user roles. And this, first of all, says there's all the different roles that are available. But you can go into the permissions to learn more about that. And then there's even a section here that says, click here to see the permissions. When you do that, it's going to show you the different permissions. You can see the summary of the security roles, which tells you what each user type is typically going to be able to do. So there's a lot of information there that shows you more specifics to what individual permissions are in Act and what individual user roles are typically allowed to do in Act as well. So you'll get there from the help area. Once again, to get to the help area, click that little question mark button in the top right corner and choose help topics. That'll open up that help area for you. Okay, let's see. My database is locked, so let's go back now to applying security to fields. That's what we call in the business a stall and redirect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how you can limit access to this field, whether I'm limiting somebody's ability to edit it or to even see it. In the tools menu, we're going to go to define fields, and this is going to show me my contact fields. So since this is a contact field, that's why this one came up in the dropdown. You could change it to fields for opportunities, groups, or companies using that dropdown. And a lot of people miss this dropdown. So if you're looking to limit or change the security for an opportunity field, make sure you change this dropdown to opportunities so that you can see those fields. All right, so don't skip that dropdown. Now, the field that I want to secure is credit limit. So let me scroll down. There it is, credit limit. I'm going to select that. And then in the left side, we're going to click field security. Okay, this is where we change how my users access this record or this field. By default, which is at the top, the default permission says full access to everyone. So by default, everybody has full access to change this field. However, I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to say the default should be read only. So when I change this, I'm going to click yes. It's going to change it so now all users have read-only access by default. But maybe I want to change it now so that some specific users have more and some specific users have less. So I'm going to go to my teams area, and let's say I want to give my Canada team full access. I want Canada to be able to edit this credit limit field. What I'll do here is I'll choose Canada. I'm going to click edit. And then now for Canada selected, I'm going to change its access level from read only to full access. It gets updated above. So I'll click OK. And now we can see that the Canada team has full access. But let's say that there are a couple of users that I don't even want to have any access for it. Let's say that Bugsy is one of my users that I've logged in as before. I'll change to the users area and I will locate Bugsy. He currently has read only, but I'm going to edit that to say I want Bugsy to have no access. And so we'll be able to see what this looks like. Now I'll click OK to accept this and verify again that Bugsy has no access. And now I'll click finish and I'll click close. This will unlock my database so that now I can log in as other people in the system to test this out. So let me make sure I'm still logged in as myself and I'm a member of the Canada team. So let's make sure I can still edit this, change it to 85 and click save. Yep, I can edit this field. Now I'm going to log in as somebody else who's not on Team Canada. Let's log in as Bugsy. First of all, just to make sure that he has no access to that record or to that field, I mean. And let's see, let's look up Ryan. And so you can see on the account info tab for Bugsy, this credit limit is grayed out. He can't even see what that credit limit is. We've restricted him to no access. But everybody else at my company should have read-only access. I'm trying to remember who else is at my company. Let's see, I put Ian on the list. Let me see, who else do I have here that I can log in as? I can log in as Al. Let's log in as Al. Because he is not on either of those teams. So Al. I have to remember his email address. Oops. Wow, I can't believe I remembered that password. So I'm logged in as Al. And if I look up Ryan and I go to his detail view on the account info tab, we'll see that this credit limit, he can see that number, but because he's not on the Canadian team, he cannot edit it. So this is um, changeable in 3 different ways. Now, I'm seeing in the chat, there's a couple people who say they don't have an account info tab. Yeah, this is a custom tab that I just created. You can create your own custom tabs. We've covered that in previous videos. This is just a custom tab I created to show you a specific field that I created, and I wanted to apply field level security to. So, yeah, watch some of my other videos to see how to create this tab, and you'll be able to do that as well. Okay, so that is field level security. Now, the other one that I wanted to talk about was multi-factor authentication. So you can use multi-factor authentication to prevent your users from logging in without using their phone. So this is going to add that extra layer of security. You've probably seen this on some websites where you log into a website and they want you to give your phone number and then they send a code to your phone and you have to use that code to log in. Most banks are doing this. There's a lot of websites that are doing this now. This is an option that you can have in Act as well if you want it. It's not required, but you can set this up if you want to. This is an admin set up feature only. So if you decide you want to set this up at your company, it's really easy to do. Go to your tools menu and you're going to choose manage users. And then from here on the left, we have manage multi-factor authentication or MFA. When you click that, a new tab opens up and it takes you to this manage users window, which we've seen already. But here, instead of clicking user roles, we're going to manage multi-factor authentication. When I click that, it's going to show me all of the users in my system and it's going to separate them. I have users that have been set up for single sign-on and some that have not. The ones I have that are not set up, these are ones I created in my desktop environment. But when I moved to the cloud, now I have my users have to log in by email address. And so in order to do that, they had to be set up with SSO. If you have some users that are like this, just click this Manage SSO button to set them up with an email address. But let's say that I want my good buddy Bugsy, since I've been picking on him all day already, let's make him get set up on multi-factor authentication. I'm going to check this box that says requested, which means Bugsy will now not be able to log in until he sets up his phone with MFA. So I'll click the update button at the bottom, and it says it's been requested for Bugsy. That means that now whenever he wants to log in again, let's log in as Bugsy one more time here. What'll happen is, instead of logging in, he's going to get this screen that says, your administrator has said you must log in with multi-factor authentication. So in order for this to work for you, you now have to give us your phone number and we'll send a code to your phone. So let me do this real quick. Let me put my phone number in here off screen because I know some of you will try to call me. You're sneaky like that. Once Bugsy puts in his phone number and clicks submit, now the code will get sent to his phone. And my phone is on silence, so you didn't hear it beep, but it just showed up. Let me put that code in off screen real quick here. And then click submit. And then once you click submit to that, it will log Bugsy in as requested. So there's a couple of things that Bugsy can do here, and there's a couple of things that the admin can do. The next time Bugsy decides to log in, he can choose to bypass this if he wants to. Let me show you how that works. So the next time, since his phone is already in the system, it automatically sends that code to him. But now Bugsy could choose to remember this device. And by doing this, he'll put in that code, and then in any future time that he logs in on this specific device, this computer or this phone or whatever it is, Act will say, okay, I already know this is a secure machine. We don't need to authenticate him anymore. So he won't ever have to use this again. Now, that is an option you may want to go with, or you may decide, no, I don't want to give Bugsy the option to do that because, you know, he leaves his computer open all the time and people can get in there and do whatever. So as an admin, you can choose to hide this selection, and I'll show you how to do that too. I'm going to click back so that Bugsy has to log in again. But from the manager area, I'm going to go back to my manage multi-factor authentication. And when I click that, we'll see here, this has been updated because now Bugsy is active. He's put in his phone number, he's logged in. So the system knows him under MFA. What a manager can do now is check the box on the right, which says prevent remember device. Now this will not give Bugsy the option any longer to check that box to remember the device. He'll have to use MFA every time he logs in. So let's go back to Bugsy again real quick, and we'll log in as him. And when we do that, we can see that checkbox is gone. So Bugsy has to log in every time, regardless of which machine he's using. If you decide you want to disable MFA for any reason, maybe Bugsy loses his phone, maybe whatever could have happened, you can always come back to this area and turn it off, which then will allow Bugsy to log in as normal. So that's multi-factor authentication. Next, I want to show you how to set up duplicate checking in Act. This is a question that I get all the time. How do I prevent my team from creating multiple records for the same contact, for the same company, over and over, whatever that record type is? You can set up duplicate checking, and this is something that managers, or I'm sorry, that administrators can do, not managers. This is a preference too. So in the tools menu, you're going to go to the preferences area to set this up. And this is a preference that's available on the admin tab. Only the admin will have access to this. I think the other users will see it, but it'll be grayed out. They won't be able to click on it. When you go into the admin preferences, um, you'll see this duplicate checking area. I don't remember if I think it's unchecked by default. So you'll just want to check that box to enable it and then choose the record types that you want to enable it for: contact, company, or group. I'm going to leave it at contact. Then the only other thing you need to do is you need to choose the settings, which will trigger a match in Act. I usually choose the defaults: contact name and then email. If you only chose contact name here, then anybody who has the same name Act would think was a duplicate record. So I might have, John Smith. Well, maybe I have 4 or 5 people named John Smith. So I don't want Act to automatically trigger a duplicate based on name alone, because there are a lot of common names out there. So we're going to choose contact first and then email address. Now, of course, this only works if you're entering in emails in the email field. If you're not using that information, then don't choose that as a duplicate, because Act will never find a duplicate for you. Also, it could trigger a duplicate if you're not entering in an email address, because if the email address is null or nothing, that might give you a false match. So just think about how you want to set up these duplicates so that the matches occur. And then when you click OK, you should be able to now scan for duplicates. So let me try and do this here. I'm going to now create a new record, a new contact record here, and we're going to use the one we used earlier here, Bob McKenzie. And I'm going to use his email address that I put in earlier, Bob at Elsinore Brewery. And I'll click save. And what will happen is now Act will give me an error message or just an alert. Maybe it's not an error, but it says the record you're trying to create is a duplicate. Are you sure you want to continue? If I choose yes, or if I say okay, then it will let me. I will be able to create a duplicate, but at least I'm getting this warning, because there may be some reasons why you want a duplicate record. So Act will still let you do it, but it's going to give you this warning first of all. Or I could say no or click cancel and not do it. But maybe I put in the name wrong. Maybe it's supposed to be Doug and not Bob. So I could change this here now to say Doug and then click save. Now, because the name is different, even though the email is the same, Act will allow it, because both of those criteria have to match before Act will say, yeah, this is a duplicate record. So that's a quick way to prevent duplicates from happening in your system. But what if you already have duplicates in your system? Well, you can go to your tools menu and you can choose scan for duplicates. From here, you can choose what you want to scan for. So usually contact name and then email address. And then when you click OK, Act will search your database to see if there are any duplicate records. If there are some, they will pop up here, and you'll be able to move through a wizard to combine those records together. So that's 2 ways that you can manage duplicates, by preventing future ones and then managing the current ones that you have. And again, that second example, I did it kind of quickly. It's under the tools menu, and the choice you want to do here is scan for duplicates. I recommend doing this on a regular interval, just to make sure that you don't have a lot of duplicate records in your database, because that could cause problems everywhere in reporting, in scheduling activities. Imagine I schedule an activity with my version of Bob McKenzie, and one of my other employees schedules an activity with their version of Bob McKenzie. Now we're just having all these kinds of record inconsistencies because we're working with the same person, but different records in Act, and that can be a big mess. Okay, next up, what about importing records? This is a question I get a lot of the time from people who, are maybe just starting up with Act, or maybe they get a new list of contacts and they want to put them into Act, but they don't want to have to key them in one at a time. Well, we can import a spreadsheet into Act of the contacts that we want to add. And there's several different ways to do this. I have a process that I like to follow because I think it makes a lot of sense. And the process that I do is I create a template. What I mean by that is I create a spreadsheet in Excel and I use that as my template. And that template on the screen here shows the field names at the top and then each of the records I want to import beneath that. Once I create that template, I can import that template into Act. So I'm going to walk you through this in case that didn't make sense of how to begin. How do we create a template? Well, what I like to do is I like to start from a list view. So I'm going to go to a contact list view. It doesn't matter what the list view is of. It doesn't matter which contacts are here. I just want to get to a list view because this is going to be a template for me going forward. Now, on this list view, I have to decide which fields do I want to include in this template? What data am I trying to import into Act? Act is only going to import the stuff that you give it. So let's make sure that we're including the correct fields when we do our import. So from my list view, what I'm going to do is I'm going to customize the columns at the top so that I can show the fields that I want to import into Act. To customize these columns, there's a Customize Columns button in the top right corner. And I'm going to click that. Now, stay with me. If I'm losing you, it will make sense. Trust me, it will make sense. But what I want to do is customize these columns so that I'm including the fields of data that I want to import. So maybe my favorite, maybe that's not important to me. I'm going to remove that from the current view. But I really want this right column to show the fields that I want to include on my import. Record manager, maybe not so important. But company name, contact name, their title, email, phone number, ID status, maybe their address field. Maybe I need a second address field here in case somebody has like a suite number or something like that. So I'm going to put that into the right column. I'm going to move it where I want it to be. And once I'm satisfied with all the data that I want to include on this import, I'm going to click OK. And now it's going to refresh my screen and it's going to show me the fields that I've selected here. So company, contact, title, email, phone, address, and so on. Now, to create the actual template, all I have to do is click this Export to Excel button at the top. If you have like 100, 200 records here, that's going to create a giant Excel spreadsheet. So maybe just select one or two of these records and click Lookup Selected so that you don't have a giant list here. But even if you do, we can resolve that too. I'm going to click Export to Excel. And Act is going to say, you know, where do you want to save this? This is a browser function. So your browser may just launch Excel, or your browser may say we have to save this file first. So I'm going to save it on my desktop. I'll call it Contact Import Template. You can call it whatever you want. And I'll click Save. And then it'll save that. And what I want to do is open this template file, right? So this is going to open it in Excel for me. Let me make that look a little prettier. So we can see now at the top, here's the fields that I want to import into Act. And down below is where I would actually put in the names of the contacts I want to import. So I'm going to delete everything from that so that I have, try and delete this better. So now I have a fresh template. I could save this too. So now I have a template that I can use going forward. But from here, I'm going to enter in the details of the contacts I want to import. Now, this is an important step. When you save this, what I want you to do is save it as a CSV file, not an Excel spreadsheet. It wants it to be a comma separated value file. So after you import, after you put in your contacts here, you're going to go to your file menu. You're going to choose Save As, choose the destination. And then when it says Save As Type, change that from Excel to CSV, comma separated, comma delimited, and click Save. That's the format that Act wants to see. Now I have one that I've created ahead of time, so let me just show you what that might look like. Let me open my contact import. So here's what it might look like once you've saved it. I've got my company, contact, title, email, phone number, address. I didn't do an address to field, but I have most of the data that I want. And so I have 3 contacts that I'm going to import here. Amy Aronson, Patrick Pendleton, and Robin Redhead. I've got 3 contacts that I want to import. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to close Excel. And I'm going to go to my tools menu in Act. And from here, I'm going to click import. And this is going to launch a wizard. It's going to verify the database at the top I'm importing to. Some of you have multiple databases, so make sure you're importing into the correct database. If you only have one database, don't worry about it. Now we'll click next. Now we have to find the CSV file that we just created. I saved mine on my desktop, and it's right here, I believe. And then I'm going to click next again. From here, you can choose whether you want it to be a typical import or a custom import. Custom imports lets you change how you map fields. And this is useful if, for whatever reason, the template you created doesn't have the header field mapping directly to a field in Act. It's okay to choose custom every time and then just verify. That's what I typically do, even though this first one is recommended. I usually choose custom just so I can double check to make sure that I'm mapping the correct fields together. If you want to manage duplicate checking, you can do that here too. So you can turn on duplicate checking before you do an import. This is a useful step if you suspect that maybe some of the contacts in your import are going to be duplicates. I'll click next, and then it asks me if I want to import the first record. That was that header row. I don't want to import that. So I'm going to click no and next. And now here's the step where you can map the fields from your database, which was in the header row, to the actual names of the fields in Act. So this is useful if you have some custom fields and you weren't quite sure what you called it in Act. This will let you change what you're mapping that field to. And then the last step is to click next. And it'll say, if we do find a matched record, like if there's already a record in Act for this contact, what should we do? And you can choose to either merge those two records together, or you can choose to replace that record, or it's just say don't change anything, just ignore the new one. I'm going to click next. And now it's saying confirming the import. I'm going to click import, and depending on the size of your spreadsheet, this could take a little bit of time, but for me, I have a small spreadsheet. So here we go. It merged in 3 contacts. And this is listed twice because I did another merge earlier today. So that's why it's showing up twice here. So now I'm going to click finish. And now I could look up my contacts. If I want to verify the ones that were imported, one thing you can do is you can do a lookup of contacts that you created today. So from your lookup menu, I chose other fields. And in the field, I'm going to choose create date is equal to today's date. When I click OK, it's going to show me all the contacts that I've created today. So I created Bob and Doug McKenzie, but I also have, here's Patrick Pendleton, Amy Aronson, and Robin Redhead. So I've verified that those records were imported successfully. So that's how it's done. And this is also useful if you accidentally imported, too many records, or you can look up records you created today and then go back in and change them or delete them if you need to. Okay, the last thing I think we're covering here today is how to remove old data. Now, why would you ever want to do this? Let's say you've been using ACT for a decade or 2 decades, and you've started to notice that maybe it's operating a little slower than what you'd like. Or maybe you just decided, I don't need to have this giant database filled with decades old stuff. Well, there's a safe way that you can remove old data quickly instead of having to go through and spend hours, days, weeks deleting individual records one at a time. So that's what this removing old data process is going to do for you. I will say, make sure you have a backup first. On Act Premium Cloud, we back up your data once a day, but maybe just give a call to customer support and say, hey, here's what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to remove some old data. Can we just get a manual backup for me just in case I do something that I didn't intend to do? Always have a backup. Please, always have a backup. But this is going to allow us to remove old notes, histories, cleared activities. Just sometimes it's things that are just maybe you're never going to look at again. And you can choose how far back you want to go. So let me go in there and let's see how to do this. Now, you're going to go to your tools menu, and there is an option for, where is it? Tools, database maintenance. There it is. remove old data. When I choose that, this window pops up. It tells you what today's date is. That's thankful. And then you can say, I want to go and remove anything older than, let's say, however many days, 700 days is what I put in here. This is not the default. I think this is something I put in. Maybe I want to delete histories that are older than 600 days. So you decide how far back you want to go. And then you click OK, and Act will run this process for you. But make sure you back up your database before you begin. And then let that process run, and hopefully you'll see improved performance. You'll see less clutter in your database from old records that you didn't really care about. That's just a way for you to sort of streamline things to make everything run smoother. Okay, well, I told you that we had a lot to cover today. We almost went the full 4 minutes shy of the full hour. But I want to tell you about additional training webinars. Again, we do this training webinar once a month. It's usually the last Wednesday of each month. So the next one will be at the end of January 2025. If you'd like to sign up for this, all you have to do is go to your browser, go to act.com/explore, and it'll take you straight to this webinar series page. On this page, you can view on demand our list of all the webinars we've done in the past. So if you want to learn more about customizing, building that account info tab, like I mentioned earlier, we have a webinar, maybe multiple webinars on that. If you'd like to learn more about Act marketing automation or connecting with Outlook and Google, we've got webinars for all these topics. So share that with everybody at your company. And you can sign up. You've already done this, but you can share this with other people to sign up for future webinars so that you can attend live and take part in the question and answer area of it. So yeah, this is act.com/explore. We'll redirect you to this page. If you have a topic that you'd like for us to discuss on a future webinar, I welcome this. Please send us your ideas. I love seeing new ideas come from you folks at this webinar. Email us at team@act.com, and we will look at those, and we will thank you in advance for your ideas on that. And with that, we are finished. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you celebrate the holidays, have a great holiday season. Have a safe new year. Again, we won't see you again till the end of January. We're going to skip the December one. This is, I guess, typically or technically the December one. But the next one will be at the end of January. Until then, be safe, be kind to each other, and have a great end of your year. Bye-bye.